Now, we're also discussing this. It's a new scheme offering doctors a £15,000 golden hello as an incentive, essentially, to come and work in some areas of Kent where it's hard to get enough doctors. The first phase is a pilot, and it's going to aim to recruit GPs in 3 places, in Thanet, Medway and Swale. So is this the solution? I know lots of you get in touch with me telling me how hard it is for you to get a GP, to get an appointment. So let's discuss now with Karen Constantine, the Labour County Councillor in Ramsgate. Karen, welcome to the Wake Up Call. Can you first of all give us a sense of the pressures on GPs, for GPs in your area?
Well, I think this goes quite a way back, actually, now. Goes back a number of years. And certainly the mood music is that people find it incredibly difficult to get GPs appointments. And my sympathy is both with them, people trying to get an appointment, especially when you get to that stage where you feel quite panicky about, whatever it is you're experiencing. But I also then have huge sympathy with the people trying to fix the system that we've got, and the people that are working in the surgery, and obviously the GPs themselves, who are going to work to do the best job that they can do.
Absolutely. It is very difficult in all areas, actually, of the NHS at the moment. Why do you think there's a particular pinch point in your part of Kent, though?
I think we've known that certain parts of the country have difficulty recruiting GPs for quite a long time. I mean, going back to 2017, 18, 19, for instance, this is not news. And we've seen the direction of travel with regard to what's happening for GP practice. We've seen, we're not getting the numbers of new GPs through. We're hearing from GPs that have been in practice for a while that they're ready to retire but can't retire. There's that demographic cliff edge that's going on. And so I'm not sure this is a completely new initiative. There's been targeted enhanced recruitment schemes in place for a while. Do they work? Well, they work to a certain extent. Will it fix the problem in Thanet and elsewhere? It will certainly help, but it will not fix the problem. The problem is much deeper than that.
It is, isn't it? But if this is a sticking plaster, presumably it's a welcome one.
Totally. I totally welcome it. There's no doubt. I mean, anything that helps us to draw more GPs to, into Thanet and other areas such as Medway. But it's a sticking plaster, not a full solution. I mean, we're in a situation where we've got GPs now thinking about being balloted for strike action.
Yeah.
I would say at the moment that looks likely to be successful. And we're looking at a third of GPs who are thinking of quitting their practices to do other things and potentially to work abroad.
And presumably this is a problem that feeds itself, because you're more likely to want to quit and do something else if you're under enormous pressure, and you're under enormous pressure because there are too few GPs.
There is that. So you create a sort of toxic workplace situation where you're physically and psychologically kind of burnt out very, very quickly. And certainly even newly trained GPs going into practice are reporting those symptoms very early on in their career, which is incredibly worrying. But you've also got the other issue, which is that GPs are actually loaded up with debt. Now, they do earn good money. By and large, once they've got their feet under the table, they're on a really good salary, So, it's important to recognise that.
Yeah.
But they've got £100,000 worth of debt to get to that point. So you can see the appeal of going to work in Dubai for a few years, or Australia. You can see the appeal of working in countries where they've got their health system sorted out, while ours, frankly, is in a state of decay and is falling apart. And so the only solution to this really is a whole system solution that deals essentially with workforce right across the NHS. It's a big job. It's a massive responsibility towards the population, and somebody needs to deal with it.
It's very easy, though, isn't it, for the opposition to say we need a complete overhaul. But what would Labour do if they were in power right now to end the industrial action? Because people want change now, don't they?
Yes, people want change now. I mean, I don't think in any universe that the change that's required will happen very, very quickly. It is going to take time. But the one thing that Labour would do, which is distinct and different from the current administration, is to sit down with the trade unions who represent the workers, and is to sit with the Royal Colleges, etc., to look at what the workforce solutions are and to act on what they're hearing.
But
the
specifically,
do what?
Do what, though?
Well, I think we've got to create workplaces that are the sort of places that people want to work in.
But how?
So we've got to ramp up the number of GPs. We've got to ramp up the number. You know, one of the things that Labour is talking about is creating GP surgeries becoming more like health centres. So you go and you've got a one-stop shop, so that you can go there and get access to all sorts of services. So there's got to be a more flexible approach for the future. We've got to look at how we're encouraging people into the trade, you know, into the industry of healthcare, if you like. And we've got to make sure that where we get more doctors in, that we're also looking after the receptionists. And I think we've got to do a lot more about medical literacy. You know, we've got to give a lot more support out in the community. So, I mean, I would always advise people to also go to their pharmacist, you know, because a pharmacist can be hugely useful.
Just to interject for time reasons, what about pay? Would Labour increase pay across the board for workers in the NHS?
I think it's about I think it's about looking at the whole package, because I don't think pay is necessarily the critical issue. Although you have got the British Medical Association speaking for doctors, saying that they've lost somewhere in the region of a third of their real pay in the past decade. But it's about, when you go to work, what sort of environment are you working in? What sort of access to training and development are you getting? What sort of pressures are you under? Because it is soul destroying. Ask anybody who works in the NHS.
Yeah.
It is soul destroying.
We've had many nurses on this show saying the same thing. Exactly. Listen, Karen, we have to leave it there for now, but we will come back to this conversation because it's ongoing, of course. Karen Constantine then is Labour County Councillor in Ramsgate. Meanwhile, NHS England says GPs across Kent and Medway continue to work hard to see patients as quickly as possible and are committed to offering patients a positive experience. It said there was a number of initiatives taking place to reduce the pressure, including recruiting extra roles to support the GP workforce. And as Karen was saying, that is, of course, a huge part of the problems that we are experiencing at the moment.